Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is Friday, April 9th, 2021. This is episode 20 of 413 Sports Talk, and I'm your host, Raheem Escalay. Today, we have some scores and news from the MLB, the NHL, the NBA, as well as coverage of the first round of the Masters tournament down in Augusta, Georgia. 32-16 concludes today with coverage of the entire NFC West. Also, Friday Night Lights 413 style is here, and I have a lot to get into when we get into that segment of the show. So, without further ado, let us begin on this beautiful, sunny, warm Friday morning. I'm pumped. Usually during the latter half of the year, we would call this Football Friday. In the fall, we got high school football along with NFL and college. So that's why we would consider today Football Friday. But we are in the spring, and we are grateful no matter what what form we get football in. So spring football is good. And I love the fact that these high schools are out here competing. Love the fact that these students are getting the chance after what we went through in 2020 collectively in the sports world. I'm glad these kids are getting out there and getting their chance to show their stuff. There's a lot of electrifying energy around that, so we will definitely dive into that. First things first, let's go with your MLB scores and a little bit of news as well. We have the Mets over the Miami Marlins 3-2 yesterday. Chicago Cubs beat the Pittsburgh Pirates 4-2. Boston Red Sox over the Baltimore Orioles 7-3. That was what you call a quality win. And I'm pretty sure the rest of my fellow Red Sox fans can attest to that. Colorado Rockies over the Arizona Diamondbacks 7-3. St. Louis Cardinals beat the Milwaukee Brewers 3-1. Chicago White Sox over the Kansas City Royals 6-0. Minnesota Twins again scored more than 10 runs for the second time in 3 games, beating the Seattle Mariners 10-2. Seattle has been on the bad end of a couple whoopings so far this season, and we're not even a month into it. And Seattle's already showing that defense is one thing they're struggling with, but I'm confident that they'll get it together. The Houston Astros, who have starting to impress, coming out to me as one of the early best teams in the league. They beat the Oakland Athletics 6-2, and the Los Angeles Dodgers beat the Toronto Blue Jays 7-5. That concludes scores from the MLB. Moving on to the National Hockey League, the New Jersey Devils beat the Buffalo Sabres 6-3. Pittsburgh Penguins beat the New York Rangers 5-2. Winnipeg over Montreal 4-2. Edmonton over Ottawa 3-1. Dallas ends up beating Chicago 5-1. Nashville puts it on Detroit 7-1. Tampa Bay beats the CBJ 6-4. Carolina over Florida 3-0. Boston Bruins beating Washington 4-2. Alex Ovechkin did not do well in that game, by the way. Not even a goal to be had by him. And the New York Islanders end up beating Philly 3-2. Vancouver and Calgary was postponed, and as soon as we have information on that match, I'll bring it right to you. Moving on to the NBA. Unfortunately, Ryan Jones' Miami Heat ended up beating my Lakers 110-104. Chicago Bulls over the Toronto Raptors 122-113. Cleveland Cavaliers, who have been turning around of late. At one point, I thought they were the worst team in the league, but they've been winning lately. They beat the Oklahoma City Thunder 129-102. The Dallas Mavericks get a win over the Milwaukee Bucks 116-101. The Utah Jazz turn it around after getting beat the previous night by the Phoenix Suns. They beat the Portland Trail Blazers 122-103. The Los Angeles Clippers beat the Phoenix Suns 113-103. And the Detroit Pistons beat the Sacramento Kings and Ja Morant by a score of 113-101. Those are your NBA scores. Now moving on to Friday Night Lights, 413 style. We have a slate of games that start today, and we have 413 Sports Talk's high school football power rankings. The top 10 teams under my evaluation of offensive production, defensive production, also what they do on special teams, and the amount of seniors, juniors, and freshmen littered amongst the teams. So here we go. Today, Westfield visits Holyoke. Mayhar goes to Athol. Smith Volk against Ludlow. Number 9, Agawam goes to face number 3, West Springfield in what many are calling as the game of the week in Western Mass high school football. Frontier goes up against Greenfield. Palmer takes on number 10 ranked Ware. Minnechaug, who I have ranked number 2, goes on to play East Long Meadow. And favorite Springfield rivalry with Commerce and Putnam, and that kicks off tonight. Now for 413 Sports Talk High School Football Power Rankings, and they are as follows. The number 1 team in Western Mass are the Central Golden Eagles, followed up closely by number 2 Minnechaug. West Springfield sits at number 3, Westfield in at number 4, Northampton at 5. I have the Wacona Warriors at 6, who have been surging up my list in the past weeks. Their offense is starting to gain rhythm, and for opposing defenses, that should be something to take note of. South Hadley comes in at 7th. We have Longmeadow coming in at 8. Agawam ranked 9th, and Ware, who goes up against Palmer this afternoon, we have them ranked 10. Those were your high school football power rankings from us straight at 413 Sports Talk. And now the finale. I brought to you guys a section of the show called 32 and 16. I went through the entire NFL division by division, scouring for information, evaluating performances from the last season, seeing where other experts had guys ranked, had teams ranked, and my overall knowledge for the sport and the league. Today, 32 and 16 concludes with our entire division coverage of the NFC West. And though the 49ers were the basement dwellers in this division, it was very competitive, especially at the top. Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks brought it. Jared Goff, when he was with the Los Angeles Rams, they had a very complete team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And this year, we have surging up the board in the NFC West, the Arizona Cardinals. Cliff Kingsbury has, in my opinion, one of the best offensive systems ever put in football. It's very pass-happy, and a guy by the name of Kyler Murray, who embodies the hashtag height over heart, is slinging it around in that offense, and it just makes everything look so good. DeAndre Hopkins was added to the mix last year, and this year, not only on the defensive side have the Arizona Cardinals signed J.J. Watt, but they have managed to acquire former Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver A.J. Green. Can you imagine that? A.J. Green and DeAndre Hopkins on the outside. And then Kenyon Drake, who's a rising star at halfback in this league, running it. That offense has potential to be one of the top in the league this year. I really think this is Arizona's year to come out and shine. The normal bullies, the winners of that division, the guys with the tough defense, the San Francisco 49ers have been on the decline as of late. So I think there's prime opportunity for the Arizona Cardinals to step up and win this division. But there is one obstacle in the northwest of the United States that stands in the way of the Arizona Cardinals winning the NFC West. That is Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks. So without further ado, let's get into 32 and 16. Starting with The 2020 NFC West division winners, Seattle Seahawks. Let's go. Last year in the NFC West, the Seattle Seahawks were 12-4. That was enough to garner first place. Russell Wilson, an all-pro NFL quarterback, year in, year out, had an amazing year. But there was something missing. His protection. Russell Wilson was harassed on an NFL high 44% of his snaps last year. That translates to inconsistent offensive line play, whether that be combination changes too early in the season, the continuity of the offensive line being an issue, guys gelling, communication, whatever the case may be. That speaks to problems on the offensive line. And when you have an all-pro like Russell Wilson under center, and you've just given him a very rich contract, you might want to protect your investment. As an organization, I see many opportunities in the upcoming draft in which the Seattle Seahawks can draft protection for Russell Wilson, so that those passes, those bombs to DK Metcalf can become more often and less stretched out than they were last season. And granted, they were good. They were division winners. But Russell was not protected in the way that could have garnered him to be in the top 3 of quarterbacks when it came to the MVP discussion. Shout out to Aaron Rodgers, by the way, for being the eventual winner of the MVP race. Boy, it was tough. The way Russell Wilson was playing earlier in the season, coupled with Patrick Mahomes and his consistency all year, really had my boy Aaron on his toes. But I'm glad that he was voted MVP. But honestly, at the beginning of the year, through about the first 6 or 7 games, Russell Wilson had that conversation was just Russell. That's it. So I think in the latter half, the offensive line kind of fell apart, and it's imperative that in this draft they go and get some protection for him. Another thing I noticed about this franchise this season, I love the Tyler Lockett extension. 4 years, $65 million. That's another security blanket for Russell Wilson, especially if he has to deal with the issues from the past with the offensive line and the holes coming in, especially in that right guard spot. Sheesh. If Russell has to deal with those issues, the completions and Lockett's yardage and touchdown total will probably diminish. So, in order for that contract and that amount of money thrust at that guy to make sense, the offensive line has to do its job, so more completions can be made available for Tyler Lockett. DK Metcalf, the son of former Chicago Bears Terrence Metcalf. I had to deal with him a lot being a Packers fan in the late 90s, early 2000s. Terrence Metcalf was a class act. Great professional, and I believe he will be in the Hall at some point or whatever. DK Metcalf is the embodiment of the physical wide receiver. There's nobody who's made more contested catches since he's been in the league. And you have to admire those guns. He's ripped from head to toe, and that translates on the field with the contested catches. He's gone over 1,000 yards in each season, except when he was a rookie. So DK Metcalf is a guy who really gets it. He's a huge security blanket for Russell on the left side or wherever he tends to line up. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes DK lines up in the slot. He's another guy that Russell likes to go to. And with their lack of a solid tight end, sorry, Seahawks fans, it's the truth. You know that most of the passes are going to go to Lockett in the slot, Lockett if he goes to the outside, and Metcalf, who's going to play on the outside for most of the snaps. So I like Metcalf. I think this year he's going to take an even bigger bound. But all that goes back to the offensive line, who failed the team down the stretch. The defense has always been one of the top units in the league. Year in and year out since about 2008, I've been thoroughly impressed with the Seattle Seahawks and what they're doing defensively. I love it. I think, especially in the secondary, even after the Legion of Boom faded away, they got Shaquille Griffin, and he, at that safety spot, has really anchored and motivated that Seattle Seahawks secondary. The Seattle Seahawks, again, were 12-4 last season, but with the 17-game season this year, I predict them to be 13-4 and the NFC West champions of 2021. Moving on to the Los Angeles Rams, who last season finished 10-6 in the NFC West, eventually losing to the Green Bay Packers in the divisional round of the NFC playoffs. I predict the Rams, however, this season to take a step back. They're going to be 9-8. That's my prediction. And I know, slow down. They got Matthew Stafford, and just that addition alone should catapult them, maybe even to Super Bowl contention. But let's pump the brakes. We know Matthew Stafford did play for the Detroit Lions. So listen to this. Goodbye, Goff. Greetings, Matt Stafford. That was a great trade. It worked out for Los Angeles, and we all know that the compensation in relation to the draft picks, they are going to be the plus on the side of that argument because Detroit is going to fail miserably like they have year in and year out. I'm beginning to think it's something in the air. I think if you fire the owners, you fire the GM, you've brought in new head coaches year in and year out, and it's just complete. With that being said, I really hope that Jared Goff is the guy over there that can turn it around. And again, being a Packers fan, let's hope not. But there are a lot of other people that are saying that Jared Goff could elevate the team. You know, maybe to an 8-9 season. That's a little bit rich, I know. There are holes only in the running game with this team. The offense got better with the Stafford addition. Some picks there, some picks who I have them projected to grab in the draft this year has me thinking that the Rams will be able to make that hump as far as getting over the playoff losses and take the next step. But that's not happening this year. The defense is still third best in the league behind the Packers and the Buccaneers. Some might say in the NFC, but I'm very impressed with the defensive line. I think that Jalen Ramsey is the best cornerback in football, and he has elevated the play of that secondary, of the entire defense actually, which has enabled them to be top 3. My last thing with the Los Angeles Rams, this is not a rebuilding phase by any means, but I don't trust Malcolm Brown at halfback. So what I think the Rams can do to help themselves in the draft this year is draft Alabama star running back Najee Harris. And there is my evaluation of the Los Angeles Rams. Moving on to the Arizona Cardinals, who are 8-8. That was good enough for third place in the NFC West. My prediction is that this season they'll take a step up. They'll be 12-5 and play second in the NFC West. Depending on how competitive the rest of the NFC as a conference is, I think will determine whether the Arizona Cardinals get into the playoffs this season. That's if their season goes the way that I think it's going to go. So here we go. Kyler Murray got a new toy to play with in former Cincinnati Bengal wideout A.J. Green. That offense is going to be sparks. They have D-Hop on the other side. As long as they can stay healthy, as long as Kyler can stay healthy and make some throws in the pocket, calm down. I understand you're 5'9", and those offensive linemen are 6'4" and 310 plus pounds on average for that Arizona Cardinals football team. But sit back, relax. The play will develop. You will find somebody open. And I'm not saying that his scrambling is bad, because that's gotten him a lot of notoriety in the league. It's what was a part of the big plays in college for Oklahoma. So I just feel like Kyler's got to make some smarter passes in the pocket. And with the improvement along the offensive line, more time is going to be allowed for him to make smarter reads, make better passes. So I believe this season you might get a chance to see some more passes down the field, out of the pocket with Kyler Murray. Love the J.J. Watt addition on the defensive side of the ball. Never really had a problem with the Arizona Cardinals defense. They were always top 10. Budda Baker flies around the field, man, creates havoc everywhere he goes. So I expect that defense to be great, just like they are year in and year out. D-Hop and A.J. Green can potentially be the best wide receiver tandem in the league in Cliff Kingsbury's pass-happy attack. Secondaries beware. The secondaries in their division, the ones that I think might give that Cliff Kingsbury passing attack a bit of a challenge, would probably be the Seattle Seahawks. But honestly, the sky's the limit for this team on the offensive side of the ball. I think that Kyler can potentially go over 5,000 yards this season, with both of those star wideouts each going over 1,000 and 10 or more touchdown grabs to their names. So it's going to be very interesting to see. But on paper, they look like potentially what could be the best offense we'll see this fall. So the defense, they're a step away from greatness. I think if the offense has a good year, it will inspire the defense to play better, and we just might see these Arizona Cardinals going outside my prediction and potentially winning the NFC West in 2021. The last team, as 32-16 concludes, are the San Francisco 49ers with head coach Kyle Shanahan and their issue apparently at quarterback with Jimmy G. They're moving up in a trade with Miami and that third pick in the NFL draft. Gee, I wonder where they're going to go with this. I think the writing's on the wall. Personally, I can't decide whether it's going to be Justin Fields or Zach Wilson. I know that they need a quarterback, and I don't think that they would take a wide receiver here. It would almost be childish, maybe even borderline stupid for them to go wide receiver here with this pick. It just puts Jimmy G in a weird position with that franchise quarterback contract and the pressure since he's been notified that the 49ers have moved up in the draft in one of the top 3 spots. So a lot of people think, as do I, that the writing's on the wall, that Jimmy G will be moved potentially within the next couple weeks, if not within a week. And then that would probably make it clear to all of us the direction that they're going to go as far as this franchise and who Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch see as the guy going forward. They might draft a quarterback and keep Jimmy G around, try to keep things competitive. Maybe that spark might catapult Jimmy G to get into kind of the Aaron Rodgers situation last year, as you saw. The Packers moved up to the 24th spot to draft Jordan Love, which was extremely questionable. We won't get into that. So maybe that will be the same fortune for Jimmy G. Maybe this is a spark underneath his butt to motivate him to play at that all-star level that we saw the year that he replaced and came in to back up Tom Brady when he was drafted as a New England Patriot. The defense needs more contribution from D Ford. Don't look at me crazy. He's one of my favorite defenders this league has to offer. Flies around the field with reckless abandonment. The way he makes tackles is second to none, and I really like him. But I think last year with the injury and the inconsistent play in the beginning of the year speaks to what they need from him this year, especially with that team taking a step back. With them being 6-10, it's their first losing season out of the last 3. So it's concerning for me on the defensive side of the ball with them that D Ford gets better. More pressures on the quarterback because you're going to have Kyler Murray with more people to throw to. Russell Wilson's also going to do his thing as well. And Matty Stafford is going to go bananas in Los Angeles. So that 49ers secondary looks to take some hits this season. I love the wide receiver core, Deebo Samuel and everybody they got over there, Brandon Ayuk. They're trying to build something reminiscent to what Kyle Shanahan had in Atlanta with Julio Jones and Roddy White late in his career, and Calvin Ridley, who came kind of late in Kyle Shanahan's coaching career. Love what they're doing over there. The quarterback issues, though, translate to few wins. And I'm not God. I'm not a crystal ball. I'm not the Swami, not Chris Berman. But I know that quarterback issues translate to very few wins. So it's time for them to start the new wave within the 49ers organization at quarterback. For the sake of my drafts, my mock drafts, I hope they don't go with Fields, but I think they're going to. I think the Jets are going to have a chance to draft Zach Wilson. I think for some reason the 49ers view Fields better. Probably his size and build. Zach Wilson, I know the knock on him, is that he's not as big as scouts would like him to be, and that raises durability questions. I would say the 49ers are in rebuild mode. Don't expect too much of them. If the season goes to the wind and doesn't look like it's going to be one that says the 49ers are going to go to the postseason, I would like for them, hopefully, to not throw out Justin Fields if they do take him to the Wolves. I know you want to see him develop, but I also don't want to see it kind of ruin his career. I know we've seen a lot of rookie quarterbacks have success within the last half decade, but I think for him at this position, with that offense and that situation, I think it's best for him to sit. Shout out to Trent Williams, the member of that offensive line who has the richest contract out of all NFL players right now. I think it's 6 years, $167 million. He's going to be over there to protect whichever quarterback is the starter, whichever quarterback plays over there in San Francisco. There you have it, folks. That concludes my segment of 32